tengo el placer de presentar hoy a Cecilia Bonefeld-Dahl, que es la directora general de Digital Europe. Para que los que no lo sepáis, Digital Europe es la patronal europea del sector digital, que representa la industria digital, de la cual AMETIC no solo es socia, sino además vicepresidente, y que estamos absolutamente alineados en todos los temas que defendemos. Tengo además que agradecer especialmente a Cecilia que esté hoy aquí, porque tiene compromisos familiares muy importantes esta misma semana, de manera que doblemente bienvenida y gracias por estar. Cecilia es una persona con una gran trayectoria y experiencia, es danesa, representaba a la asociación danesa en Digital Europe y desde el pasado mes de marzo, si no recuerdo, en febrero, es la nueva directora general de Digital Europe. Veréis que es una persona que con una gran capacidad de comunicación, de seducción y de convicción, de manera que disfrutar de su ponencia. Cecilia, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. So I hope that this is turned on. Thank you so much. Muy importante, I understood. The rest was a bit blurry, but yes, it's true. I stepped into the office in April. And normally you don't start a presentation by telling about yourself, but I would like to do that because it carries a couple of important things in how I also look at digitalization and the digital world. So I am married to Jacob. I will be married next weekend. So I really made an effort to come here. We have 5 children, teenagers. So digital is like in the house. It is digital. I mean, do I feel Danish? Yeah, it's a kind of a place that I come from, but I feel like a European person or even a global person. My parents traveled the world in Asia, Middle East, Europe, all over the place. And I have been 25, I was born into the ITC sector, and basically everybody told me, but it's so boring. That was when the time where they thought it was like white socks and sandals and coding and Coca-Cola, and I said, this is the coolest sector in the world. This is basically the only growth driver left in the world. And if this isn't cool, I don't know what it is. I think that working in IT and digitalization is the coolest thing in the world. That makes me wake up in the morning. And I have worked with great companies like Lego, Echo, Grundfos, Maersk, digitalizing their businesses for many, many years. I built 2 companies myself. I started my career in some of the big multinationals, Oracle and IBM. So basically, I've tried everything from building from scratch a company and also working in companies with big global capacities. So why is this important? Yeah, so 12 years ago, I went into policy. I became very active in digital policies and foreign policies. And because I realized that we are actually trying to keep a world stable that has already changed. The big problem is, are we too slow? So I think His Excellency Minister Nadal said it very well. We have many, many good things in Europe. Amongst other, we really respect people. We respect relations amongst people. But we are kind of slow, right? We are kind of slow. And let me get back to that. Today, I'm the General Director of Digital Europe. Let me tell you a little bit about who that is. So basically, we represent around 25,000 companies. That number is a little bit old, so I think it's actually much more right now. And our vision is basically, of course, to create growth for our sector, but also to digitalize Europe in a sustainable way. And I think that word sustainable is getting more and more important. We cannot, as Europeans, leave people behind. We need to get everybody along, and we need to embrace technology in the way that actually benefits the society and the way that we live here in Europe also. Okay, as you see, we have representation in all countries. So AMETIC is a member of, and a very important member of Digital Europe. So we call it, when we brag to the Commission, we tell them we have feet on ground. You know, we actually have people working with this out in the countries. So yes, of course, we work towards the Commission to form the policies, and those policies are very important to you guys, right? But we actually also work through the countries, and increasingly wants to work increasingly through the countries to make sure that when the regulations are implemented, please, let's not do it in 28 different ways, right? Let's do it in one way so our companies can grow seamlessly across borders without trade barriers of, no, Spain does it this way, and Denmark does it this way, and we are so special. We are limiting ourselves. We need each other more than ever. Then we have direct memberships, a long row of direct memberships. So we function in two chambers, which is basically the direct members and the NTAs. Of course, they are few in numbers, but also big internationally. At the moment, we are opening up for also non-ICT companies, so meaning that we are going into sectors and doing digital policies in other sectors. I will get back to that. So, let me just take you on a little bit of journey. Okay, imagine yourself 10 years old, okay? Do you remember being 10? How many of you did not have a mobile phone when you were 10? How many did not have a mobile phone? Not. Okay, how many did have a mobile phone when they were 10? 1, 2. Okay, you must have been specialists and you must have been carrying it like this, right? Yeah, because I remember them. It was like you took that and you did, and it was out on the seat in the car. Eh? Yeah, I was one of those guys who actually had one. So, I mean, this is what it is. You guys, how many of you have kids, children? Okay. How many has a child without a mobile phone? Oh, really? So, okay, either they're very young or they are kind of weird. So this is what I mean. Nearly no one. I mean, we carry our device, and some of them looks like it's glued to their hand, right? You're not sure you can get it away from them again. This has happened, it's just gone so quick. 20 years. 10 years ago, nobody had a smartphone. It's amazing, isn't it? So. This is just the start of it. And remember, using a mobile device doesn't make your kid digital. It just means that they are using a technology to entertain themselves, right? But how do we make children that actually knows how to create that thing? Okay. But it's changing the world not only for your children, for the citizens, but also for governments. I mean, digital doesn't carry borders. Digital doesn't really care about what country it lives in. So now we're talking IoT and connected society. Do you think that the car actually cares whether it drives in France or Spain? No, you want to get across the land, right? So digital changes the world of governments, and it's very challenging to them. It is changing the world of our companies, the way that we act, the way that we grow. So speed is actually crucial here. It's not the only parameter, but speed of change is crucial. So His Excellency Minister Nadal also said one thing. He said, now it was changing the way we worked. Yeah, it's true. First we worked with the ground, then we had a machine, then it helped us, then we got the computer, then we could communicate without being physically in that place. But right now, it's taking over the way that we are thinking. So it's estimated that in 2020, that's, it's 3 years from here, around 7 million jobs will disappear due to AI and the development of AI. The question is not why are we afraid of that. The question is, have we educated our people to actually get the new jobs? Because there will be new jobs. You remember, when the horses, okay, sorry horse, we can't use you anymore, we have a car. It's not that all the jobs disappeared. New jobs came along. So we need to make sure that we stay ahead of this. And we need to make sure that right now the prediction is that only 10% of the growth created from AI will end up in Europe. Only 10% of the huge amount of growth that AI will create ends up in Europe. That's what we should be scared about. How do we make sure to create regulatory framework and skills so we actually can have these jobs here? And we cannot say no. No is not an option. It's how. Okay? We need to go with the how. And I believe that when you have a responsibility, you need to take that responsibility. This sector, you guys down here, you know about digitalization. They don't know. Okay? So we can point our fingers at all the governments and we can say, oh, you should be quicker at this and why don't you change that? But we know how to. So we carry an obligation to bring that enlightenment and the benefit of digitalization out to the world and really work with it and really make an effort. So I know that all of you, I'm preaching to the saved here because you're all here and due to the fact that you're interested in this. Okay, so yeah, basically, let's adapt to the digital reality. Yeah, so one thing I wanted to comment on, so also Nadal said, why are we not making any big companies? You know, I had this, when I was the president in Denmark, I had that discussion. I was like, why is it that we don't do any big? It's all like the Googles and the big ones and they're coming. Well, they were quicker, I'm sorry. I mean, they were faster. So we could have done it, but no, we are too small unit and we don't have a big enough home market. So we started looking into this. I can tell you that in the Nordics, and we're not that big as you guys, right? We created around 150 big unicorns in the last 10 years. You know Skype? Yeah? Skype was Danish, okay? Do you know Navision? Yeah, you know Navision. Do you know SimCorp? Yeah, okay. So I could go on and on and on. We do create these big companies, or medium-sized but very wealthy, international. But 2/3 of these companies were either sold to foreign companies or moved to Silicon Valley within the 2 first growth phases. Unity is another one. Why? Then you start asking yourself, why is that? Is that because we don't like Europe? Is it because we don't want to stay home? No. If you look at the reason they give, it is one, there is nowhere to grow in Europe. When you go to Germany, they do business with German companies, and then they have different rules in cybersecurity, in GDPR and how they do that. You know, there are different rules in that. They have different rules in that. There are different rules in that. We don't understand how to grow in Europe. So they need a home market. So all the big, why is it that the Alibaba and the Googles and so on, they have a huge home market, right? And they're fast and they're innovative. So the other one is that say, we don't find the people. We don't find the right people and the right skills here in Europe. And the third one is to say, there's not enough risk-willing capital. You have to run around, you know, for the different stocks in Europe to see if you can get some cash. So these are the problems that we should understand. It's not that we're not innovative. We are. We're actually bloody good in Europe. We have many, many innovative SMEs. We need to find out how to work and get that internal market in EU to work. Once we fix that, we don't have a problem. So, what is it that a digital world demands? If we look at the foundation of this, when you digitalize the world, it is a kind of a parallel world, but the rules are the same, right? You cannot steal. You cannot do bad things to people. It's basically the same ground rules. Still, it's nothing new. We don't have to invent anything new. It's just the methodology is a bit different. So we really need to define a safe system, a cybersecurity collaboration in Europe, where we make sure that once an attack happens, we don't do like everything again on national level. How do we collaborate and make each other, you know, those criminal guys, they don't care if they do in Spain or in Germany or in Denmark. We've seen that now with the cyber attacks, right? They just cross border. So somehow we really need to make sure to collaborate within Europe and create that cybersecurity defense to protect our citizens and our companies. I can tell you that 0.4 of the GDPR, of the GDP actually is lost from cybercrime. 0.4. It's a huge amount of money. Okay, so digital skills. less than 50% of the European population who, like in the workforce, actually have adequate skills to the digital world that they live in. So let me just ask you, and I hope I get a lot of hands here. You guys with children, how many of you have children who can do basic coding? 10-ish. How many, if you go and ask your child, okay, so how can you get your data deleted, or how do you protect yourself on social media? How many of you have children that can, 10-ish? Okay, this is good, huh? But maybe it's because we're kind of geeks in here. So I mean, I when I do this in schools, when I stand in front of young people, 17, 16, 18, and I ask this, they go like this. They look at me, and maybe one geek in the corner says, I can code, you know. We have a long way to go. And, you know, this is not only about being, oh, we have to save the world, but this is growth. If we don't have people to work for us and develop our businesses, boy, I don't know where to put, you know, I don't know what to do about it. It's definitely the company cannot grow in Europe, and they will not stay here, and we will not have the foreign investment that we need. Second of all, I mean, infrastructure. How many, can you just check your mobile phone? How many of you guys are on 5G now? Can you see if you're connected to 5G? Ah, okay. Oh, I'm just asking. I was on 3G just before, huh? It's very concrete. We are behind. And we are behind in two ways, right? We're behind in the way that we still have countries with their own spectrum, we haven't got coordinated auctions, and we still have problems creating a European infrastructure. And again, infrastructure and digital doesn't care about borders, so we have to get this right. And I know it's all about politics and old quotas and stuff like that, but the more we discuss the past, the longer it takes to go into the future. So we need to push for this. We need to get a common infrastructure in place, just as we did with our highways, our freeways. If we hadn't got that, we wouldn't be in the position that we're in now. We would not sit here with good jobs and growth in Europe. Huh? So we need to get that right. And we need to get investment in 5G up. Because the next generation of data is not going to be, I mean, you sit and you still wait for your PowerPoint for 20 minutes, right, to load on your mobile phone. Imagine if you have industry processing millions of billions of data, trying to dispatch it into society. This is, you know, this is a prerequisite. If we don't get this right, the rest is kind of talk. One other thing is, it's very relevant because now we have the Estonian presidency, and you know the Estonians are quite cool in e-government. Okay, so all the, I don't want to brag, but you know, the Nordics and the Estonians were quite good at this. And so if we look at how many people live amongst countries in Europe, around 13 million people live in other countries. Honestly, I don't think it's very much because, I mean, we're 5 million people. I mean, it should be, we could easily go to other countries to work. But right now, when we go across border, it's really, really hard. You know, you cannot take your medical files. You cannot protect yourself, you know, in the way that, where is my data? I'm ownership of my own data. So how do we make sure that citizens also get a digital identity? That we can actually use that identity to move people, to create mobility, but also to create security for citizens and better services. We can save billions on the government's budget if we actually digitalize a lot of these services, especially in e-health. So what do we do about that? Well, okay, so this is a bit like how our thinking goes along. So on the horizontal part, you see how we actually work with policy. These are our major policy areas that we work with. So as you see, it's security and privacy, it's digital enterprise and emerging technologies, innovations, AI, so on. It's digital skills and jobs. It's digital infrastructure, connected society. And then the internal market and trade. And digital sustainability. Okay, so these are our policy groups. So we have a lot of people involved in actually driving policy regulation on EU level and through the countries. But now we actually we have so many industries coming to us and say, we really need innovative digital policies within our industry. So right now we are forming these 6 verticals and actually working with industry companies and with government, within the different sectors, to working with them to make innovative digital policies and development within that industry. And it's going to be a huge change in the way that we work, but digital is no longer ITC sector. It's not the IT sector. We know. We kind of, again, we know, but they don't know. And if we want to create the growth, and if we really want to move the target of Europe, then we need to go into working in a different way. So this is right now how we set up. And this is also discussions with the Commission. How can we make sure that we work together and break those silos of doing, okay, banking is here, la 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 la, but actually work with digital within the different sectors. Just giving you a brief, so let me tell you a bit about what's going on at the moment on EU level. So on EU level right now we have Estonian, they carry the presidency, but we also have what we call the Digital Single Market Midterm Review. And the 3 points that are in the center right now is digital economy. So growth of companies using data to really create services and growth. Free flow of data. So what is free flow of data is very fluffy, but it's really all about how can we make sure that valuable data can flow across borders. Cybersecurity, we discussed that before. Platforms, can we actually build out an infrastructure of platform that allows a secure environment of growth for companies and ecosystems? And then we have the Estonians with the e-health and the e-ID, and of course a bit of the same priorities as the midterm review. So these right now in the next 6 to 12 months, this is what will be discussed. So I also ask you to basically tap into this. So how do we do it? Well, of course, it's meeting. We actually do something we call the DIPPs, where we bring Commission people, high-level politicians, parliament people, industry people, ICT companies, SMEs, into a room where we really discuss what are the major challenges and how, what are the 3-4 things that we would do to try to solve this. So we're quite dynamic in our policy making and how we actually develop it. And one thing I just want to, I'm running out of time, huh? One thing I wanted to tell you, do you know what the Digital Summit is in the end of September? How many people know about that? Good. Let me tell you one thing. These are really, really exciting times. In the end of September, all the heads of state, so the prime ministers, will meet in Tallinn for the Digital Summit. So they will discuss only the digitalization of Europe. It's the first time ever, huh? It's never happened before. They're not discussing energy policy or blah, blah, blah. They're discussing digital. And we know for sure that cybersecurity will be a large part of the discussions. We know that free flow of data will be a part of the discussion. And this is really, really exciting time. So from Digital Europe, we've spent a huge amount of time interviewing hundreds of people in Europe, from government officials to SMEs, innovative SMEs, to really create some very clear recommendations. And together with AMETIC and other NTAs, we will go to the governments and really try to give them data and to base their discussions. Because the worst thing that can happen is that they meet and they go fluffy on us, you know what I mean? We really, what they don't know, I actually just discussed just before, that we have around 10 to 15 countries who has a digital strategy. They have a national digital strategy. Why is it that we don't have a European one? I mean, why is it that we don't take these 15? And, I can tell you, I've seen most of them. They're pretty alike, right? It's not that you have to invent the wheels that many times. They're pretty alike. They all have cybersecurity. They have skills in there. They have how do we use data to grow. They have innovation, digital innovation there. So how do we make sure to coordinate these efforts across Europe? And we're taking our responsibility, really making an effort, working together with the with the national trade associations and with the local governments to actually enlighten the politicians before they go to this. And we have a very good collaboration also with the Commission to kind of follow up on these things. So please be aware this is happening. This is important times. So get your messages across now. And let's help also the politicians really to get into the digital world. They need it. These guys were not like us, brought up in digital companies. So they need also the industry to basically bring them up to speed on the problems and the challenges that we have. So this is all I have for today. And if anybody has questions, I'm happy to take them. You have to speak a bit loud, but I'm happy to take a couple of questions. Let me know. Go ahead. You have a question? No. Okay. Thank you so much. I'll be in the break. Thank you.